This episode is brought to you by the legends over at Dog and Gun Coffee. You can get $10 off of your next order when you use the code Bowhunter. That's Bowhunter in all caps locks, and that will get you $10 off of your next order from Dog and Gun Coffee, whether you're ordering coffee, hot chocolate, stickers, awesome apparel, or heck, they even do knives. You can get $10 off of your next order when you use that code Bowhunter.
Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bowhunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands, searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bowhunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bowhunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting.
Legends, what is up? Welcome back to another episode. I'm pumped to share this one with you. I've got Liam Woods joining me. Liam is a young dude from New South that is absolutely crushing. He's actually got so many stories and so much knowledge under his belt. Like, he's been bow hunting his whole life. His dad is an incredible bow hunter, has helped him out and kind of shown him the way. But also just he's been out in the bush that much. He's just learnt so much and just has so much knowledge for such a young dude. And it was interesting. We were talking after the podcast. He's like, dude, I reckon I've probably killed around 700 animals with a bow, which to me is just absolutely mind-boggling. Like, yeah, I mean, even with the last 4 years of hunting, I'd be probably lucky to come anywhere near 40 right now. And obviously I'm not out there every day, but it's just crazy to think how much actual knowledge he's got and what he can share. And he really does do a great job in this podcast. I think he's got a great way of explaining things. He's very down to earth, very knowledgeable, and just very clear and precise with what he says. So I think you guys are really going to like this one. I know I really enjoyed having Liam on the podcast, and I'm sure he's going to come back for another episode soon. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to another episode of Becoming a Bowhunter. Sitting here with Liam Woods. Liam, welcome, mate.
Hey, mate, how you going? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good. I'm doing very well, dude. Thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us. You've just come off of a night shift, but we're excited to talk about bow hunting. So, dude, tell us a little bit. I kind of came across you years ago, to be honest. I think when I first started off the podcast, I literally just did I'd jump on Instagram and I would find someone who was a bow hunter, and I would go through their friends list and pretty much friend anyone that was a bow hunter, because I was like, I didn't know anyone who was a bow hunter to start with. I started the podcast. I'm like, I need to get the name of the podcast out there, but also I want to meet more people who are bow hunters. So I came across your content pretty early on, I think, back in the day, and I followed your stuff for quite a while, and I've been meaning to reach out to you for ages. Always like your stuff and whatever else. And then one day we just got talking on Instagram, and it was bound to happen one day, and we finally got there. So yeah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, definitely, dude. So tell me, how did you get into bow hunting? We're about to touch on this subject. We were talking before the show even started. I'm like, no, hold up. Tell me on the show so I don't miss all the juicy parts.
Yeah, so my old man sort of brought me into bow hunting for as long as I can remember. He was doing it since he was a teenager when he got into it himself. He grew up around the Tamworth area there and sort of met a few people at the local sort of archery club back in the day, I think, and sort of got into it from there. And then I know the other day, I think it was the last podcast with Benny Fenson, how he took his young bloke out in a backpack.
Yeah.
And that, my old man's got photos in an old album somewhere, him holding up a fox. You can just see my head sticking over his shoulder.
Dude, kind that's of thing. So sick.
So, yeah, I've been doing it for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I was about 5 years old when I was finally had the strength to draw back. I think it was about 18 pounds is what my old man wanted me to be able to draw back before I went trying to shoot anything myself. And yeah, the first thing I shot, I think, was a young goat when I was 5, and then not long after a pig, and then same year, my first fox was actually with Robbie Austin.
No way.
Yeah, that was a pretty good hunt that I always remember. But yeah, so I'm 23 now, so it's that. Yeah, a long time.
18 years,
few years.
yeah, far out. And so, was it all recurve to start with, or like what did you have to start with? One of the original compounds?
Yeah, compounds. So I think my first bar, I think it was a Browning Micro Midas 3, I think it was called. Yes, that was my first bow. And yeah, I hadn't touched recurve until only about 2 years ago, through being good friends with Jack Creek. He was offloading one of his real nice widows. It's like, I'd seen him doing it, and I'd shot his bow, mucking around with him, and when we'd be out at hunting him and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I've been shooting compound for long enough and sort of fairly accomplished, so I should try and make it a bit harder on myself.
Isn't it funny how the widows get passed around a bit, right? Like, I think it's just the good recurve bows in general, because it's so much effort to get them across. It's like as soon as one's up for grabs, like there's a long list of people I think that almost want to put their hand up and say, I'll be next, I'll take it.
Oh, yeah. Yep. People jump on them pretty quick.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me, is your dad still hunting? Is he still out bow hunting?
Oh, yeah. Yep. So his Instagram, I think, is the Born Bowhunter.
Oh, no way.
So that's my old man. And
Dude, that's
most
crazy.
people don't put two and two together.
No,
so,
wow. He puts down some ridiculous sized pigs.
Yeah, yep.
Wow, there you go.
That's my old man.
Yeah, I've talked to him a bit, actually.
Yeah, you're pretty lucky if you own a copy of them these days. There wasn't many to begin with, but back in, I think it was 2010, he brought out a bow hunting DVD when Smithy was doing all his stuff, called Gone Wild, I think it was.
Mm. That's cool. Dude, yeah, no, I'm just like, some of the pigs that he puts down are just absolutely monsters. Like, they're huge. What's the what is it just a full pig hunting DVD that him and Smithy did together?
No, it was just one my old man did on his own. I think he got a bit of guidance off Smithy. But yeah, it was just everything deer. It was kind of just, all our hunting over the past 8 years before he produced it, sort of put together in a bit of a storyline. And yeah, it was very popular. And even now, still to this day, like it was only a couple of weeks ago, someone messaged me and was like, hey man, do you have any copies? Like I watched it at my mate's house and I really love a copy. And I'm like, I think there was only 500 done to begin with. If I ever come across one, I'll get a copy done for you.
Man, that's crazy. I think there's obviously so much gold in DVDs that have just not made it to the online circumference at all. Like there'd just be so much good content out there that could be reproduced and put onto I don't know where, just YouTube or something, right? It'd just be gold. It'd be interesting to see if you could do that with it or something.
Oh yeah.
You do.
Yeah, we'll have to look into doing something like that.
Yeah, definitely. You do a bit of filming yourself, don't you?
Yeah, I do a little bit. Lately, most of it's sort of just been on my phone for convenience. So I like sort of throwing up Instagram stories and that, just because when I'm at work or not out hunting, I love when people are putting up content like that because, if I'm not bow hunting, I want to be living it in some way or another. So
definitely,
I try and do that a fair bit. And when I can, I do carry the camera and trying to get a bit better, sort of more professional or watchable content, I guess.
You and Jackie put out a film this year, didn't you? Was that you and Jack?
Yeah.
What was that?
I did.
What was that
short
called
again? Short-lived, I think.
Short-lived, that's right. Yeah, that was a good little film.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was just on the side. I've always liked sort of videoing hunting, and I've been doing it since I started videoing my old man before I could even draw back a bow myself. So I've always done it, and you kind of got to have a bit of a knack for it because you as a cameraman kind of have to be just as good a hunter, if not better.
Yeah.
Because, so it makes it hard. And, I was just looking for something to fill my free time when I wasn't actually out hunting and that. And, I just hit Jack up, and because we sort of hunt the same areas and stuff, I was like, we'll go out for a weekend and I'll carry the camera and, we'll see what we can get and put it together, a bit of film for people to watch.
How long did the editing take you for that?
Oh, it wasn't too long actually. I think
Okay,
I
that's good.
smashed it out at the Bowhunting store one arvo in a couple of hours.
There you go. That's good because, yeah, usually that's the part that takes the most. Like, usually for every podcast I release, there's an extra hour of editing and putting it up and whatever else. And I think about the film, especially like if you go a 7-day hunt or something like that, just the amount of content you have to sift through and then cut it and edit it in and stuff. Like, there's just hours spent on that back end side of things.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot goes into it.
Yeah, definitely. So you were filming for your dad before you could kind of pick up the boat. Does that mean a lot of that film was what made it to that video that you were talking about before?
Yeah, so majority of that was me filming as a little kid.
No way.
There's a little bit of content because my old man sort of grew up and still really good mates with Michael Humphreys, who still comes up when he can, sort of every rut for a few days and gets a hunt in and that.
Mm-hmm.
So he did a fair bit. And then my mum would tag along with my old man every now and again. And, yeah, she'd be behind the camera if it wasn't me.
No way. So you were literally born into it. There was no way you weren't going to be a bow hunter.
Yeah, yep. And, yeah, my love for it's just growing and growing ever since. And, yeah.
That's incredible.
Addicted.
Dude, that's so sick. That your dad put down a monster pig last year. I think it was last year, like huge. Like it would have been like 200 plus kilos, right? What was that? How much did it go?
It was 254.
Oh my god!
Live weight, weighed on cattle scales.
That is insane. So what? You had to drag it with a tractor or something?
Yeah. Well, I attempted to move with the quad bike, and yeah, that was struggling with that, and yeah, had to go get the tractor to pick it up.
Dude, that's intense. That's so crazy. I was messaging him about it, and he's just like, "Yeah, you just gotta wait your time." So, is that the same block that you hunt a lot?
No. So the main block that I hunt a lot, my old man actually bought a number of years back when it came up for sale, but we'd hunted that same block and area all our life pretty much, and just so happened that it came up for sale. My old man was able to grab it, which was pretty incredible. Cool that we own a block in the heart of it there now. But no, that big one was at my dad's twin brother's place. And we do a bit of hunting there sort of yearly. The fallow numbers are really starting to grow there now. So I'll probably actually try and spend a little portion up there this coming rut and see what's getting about. But his pig numbers aren't huge, and he doesn't really get like proper mountain boars like we do down here in the Hunter Valley and that.
Yeah.
But when he does get pigs, they're normally pretty good and worth putting some time in to try and get the drop on them.
Definitely, dude. It shows that 250 kilos. That's ridiculous. So tell me, the lay of the land as such, like your block, it is just based on the footage that you've shown, very dense country in regards to like shrubbery and the thickness of the bush that you have there, but very steep country. Animal numbers, have they changed a lot over your life? Like, have you seen ebbs and flows of it quite a lot?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, yeah, because I've hunted all my life, I've got a pretty good idea of how it used to be sort of, a few years back, the drought sort of 2017 to 19 did put a massive dent in numbers, deer, mainly the pigs. The pigs took a big hit.
Mm-hmm. Did you get fire through that block?
No, we didn't get fire, but it was just looked like a barren wasteland. Like, we got photos. I'll probably send one through to you of the difference. I think it was right at the end of the drought, we took a photo of one of the bigger dams on our place and sort of the mountains behind it, and it was just brown dirt, this tiny little puddle like in the bottom of this dam, not a green leaf anywhere to be seen. And then within 12 months, only 12 months later, dam was chockers, and I think we worked out it's at the deepest point is about 14 feet. So pretty big body of water. Definitely. And it's just lush green,
400 bit meters.
Unreal.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's it's very interesting to kind of see. Like, I've been to the Hunter Valley just last year for the first time, and it just blew my mind with the amount of critters that were about. Like, I love hunting up here in Queensland, but the critters that get about are like next to none. Like, it looks like a desolate land here compared to what you guys have down there. It's just crazy. And it's just interesting to see if the numbers have kind of always been that high, or if it's just like they're just in peak season right now because of what's happened with all the rain that we've just had. I think also probably COVID probably put a good play on it, where there weren't the people to go out and necessarily, or the culls to go out and do the cull shooting as such. But yeah, I'm always blown away by some of the content that comes up from down Tamworth way. Like it just seems like some of the best hunting within Australia.
Yeah, we're definitely pretty lucky down here. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I suppose having the good country and the feed and cover there for the animals to thrive, I guess, when they're not pressured. Pressure is like definitely the biggest thing that impacts numbers. Like since we've owned our block, we try and like keep it pretty quiet sort of through the summer months leading up to the rut.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell when it's been kept quiet, there seems to be sort of more numbers. Whether when there's more pressure, I think they'd still be in the areas, but you just don't see them as much.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me, you went out and looking over your cams over the weekend. Is that pretty much in prep for the rut right now?
Yeah, so I only really got into putting cameras out a couple of years back. It's just cool seeing what's living in the area and what
Definitely
things you don't sort of get to see.
Yeah.
And yeah, we sort of normally through summer, towards the end of when the fallow and reds are sort of getting towards the end of their velvet growth, we like to sort of see what's poking about and stuff like that. And over the last few years, like for some reason, our block outside of the rut, we rarely get stags and bucks hanging around. I'm not sure where they go. It's a big mystery around here that everyone's like, yeah, just don't see them outside of the rut. But then comes the rut, they all sort of show up year after year, and coming in the rut, you're like, oh, I haven't seen much. Like, might be a pretty quiet rut, and then yeah, something always just changes, and they're back all of a sudden. So
what about post rut? Do you find that the boys stick around at all? Like I always find May, June, like the boys all bachelor up and they just hang out, and it's a lot of the same guys I've seen around for the rut. At least I think they are.
Yeah, we get a little bit of that. For some reason, it's mainly the younger stags and bucks sort of bachelor up, and
the big old
boys. We get them hanging. Yeah, I'm not sure where the big old boys go, but yeah, from sort of mid-May, yeah, they must truck off somewhere, because I've been putting a few
thickest stuff.
Oh yeah, because I've got a fair few cameras out on lots of water sources and common trails and stuff, and yeah, still don't even catch them out there. So they're really good at hiding.
Oh, so when does end of velvet happen? That's end of January, is it? Pretty much.
Yeah, so reds are a little bit earlier than the fallow. I haven't actually caught a red throughout that rubbing out period, but I've got in the past, I've had photos of big velvet red stags on the 29th of December, and then they kind of disappear for about 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And when they're back, they're freshly rubbed out, like sort of white antlers, but hard.
Wow.
So I'm assuming the reds rub out sort of that mid-January period, and then
I've definitely seen them, I think, over the Australia Day weekend, full velvet, like big full growth, like they're ready just to scrub them down, but they haven't done it yet. I wonder if it's partially area dependent as well then.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit, because I know down south of us, seems the reds in certain areas, the reds sort of grow out even earlier again.
Yeah, wow.
And have a lot more velvet growth than at the time period compared to our area. But I know for our area, if you want to chase a fallow and get him in hard velvet, it's that first 2 weeks of February you want to try and catch him sort of about when Randy shot his, because his places he hunts aren't too far as the crow flies from our place. So
okay. Yeah, it's pretty incredible little space down there. And that, I'm actually going out over, it's in a few weeks' time, and I'd love to get a velvet stag, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, do you or don't you? Like, maybe if I get a cull stag, I'm not sure, but it's hard, right? You want to save them for the good times, but at the same time, I'd love to get a big old velvet stag. I think that'd be incredible. But yeah, at the same time, I don't know what you'd do to preserve that, or if I'd even bother. That kind of leads into your big red that you had this year. He's an absolute monster. did you cape him out and get him taxidermy and stuff, or what did you do with him?
Yeah, so he's actually currently at the taxidermist. So I was a bit slow getting around to that this time around. I wasn't really in a rush. Caped him out, soldered him for the few days that we were left up there, and then once I got him home, Kate was just sitting in the bottom of the freezer till I was ready to take him to the taxidermist. And a couple of weeks ago, Jack took me down to his taxidermist.
Where's that?
And I took just south of Newcastle.
Okay. Yeah.
Down here, so only about 40 minutes from my place. And I also took that a big 45-inch billy down to get him done up. So
how good. So tell me about the caping out process, because I will get to the hunt, but I want to know about when you get a big animal that you're interested in keeping. I think I saw you guys cut straight down. You did a cut straight up the middle of the back. Is that correct?
Yep. So what you want to do is I sort of go sort of in the middle of the neck, 8 to 10 inches behind the antlers as a start, and you want to run it straight down that hairline down the center of the back.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it easy if you just go the whole way.
Yep.
Kind of thing. And then normally taxidermists, you don't want to cut them too short.
Yes.
Most of them say if you take it just in front of the pizzle, just go, circumference around the belly line, I guess, just in front of the pizzle there, about halfway down the body or just behind, just give them enough room to work with. And from there, you can do that first, actually.
Yep.
Sort of neither here nor there, whether you do the back line or around the body. Around the body is a bit harder because you kind of big animal like a red stag, you sort of got to do one side, and then you need sort of 2 of you to flip him over the other side. And then from there, along that belly line, you want to follow sort of the hairline up the back of the front leg.
Yep.
And just continue that as a straight line until you meet up to that circumference around the belly. Mm-hmm. You don't want to meet the 2 leg cuts up in a V or anything. You just want to go straight back.
Oh, got you. So you come
and
down
then from
the
there,
elbow,
you just cape
pretty much, and then just go straight back down the side there. Like it's going straight down. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, straight down. There's normally a hairline.
Yes, I know what you're talking
when you're
about.
looking at them and you got them upside down on the belly, you'll be able to follow that hairline sort of down the back of the leg, sort of into the armpit, I guess, and then straight back from there.
And so you end up with like a flap underneath, essentially, from the belly up to the chest.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, that's it. Yep. And then from there, it's pretty easy, sort of just cape all that, pulling it forward to the neck, and then that cut you got down the back of the neck, you want to take it up to the antlers, and just behind the antlers, give yourself, I normally go about 3 to 4 inches, and then you want to do a V straight out to the base of the coronet.
Okay, so 4-inch point or triangle from the neck, like on the start of the neck, joining to the antler base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then from there, I normally you can normally get to that last joint, so you can remove the head and then cape him out, carry him out, with the head and the cape still attached to it. And then once you get back to camping, you can sort of lay the whole cape out and everything. Then you can go ahead and start caping the face and around the coronets, because that's a pretty time-consuming job.
It's hard work as well, right? Like to get it actually clean and working really well. Like I've tried to do it just a few times, just kind of mucking around when I was caping out, and I know it's hard not to punch through the hide, to be honest, around the coronets at least. Yeah,
it's very hard getting that hair right up in under the coronets.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy if you use like a flathead screwdriver.
Yeah, okay.
And then you kind of sort of sharpen it a little bit. So you kind of got to get in there and pry the cartilage away from the coronets, because that can get stuck up in there. It's pretty hard to get out. And then caping the face is a very delicate job, especially when it comes to turning the ears inside out. And
do you have the pliers, the ear pliers or anything?
No, I don't. I normally use just the tire iron, like they used to undo your wheel nuts.
Yep.
On the end of that's normally like a dull sort of flathead screwdriver looking piece.
Yep.
You can normally sort of shove that in majority of the way. Like that's a good size for like red deer size ears, but for fallow or chital or smaller I've even used like a spoon
I
or
was going to say I heard spoon a lot, like the end of the spoon, not the teaspoon part, but the other end, right? The little curvy part at the base.
The handle end.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. And
Yeah,
then
I need
the lips you have to
be handy having some pliers.
Yeah, definitely. And then the lips you have to flip inside out, right? Like you have to almost roll them or something, don't you?
Yeah, so they call it splitting the lips, and you want to have your fingers on the other side of your blade just so you can have a reference for when you're getting close, so you don't cut through the skin itself.
Yes.
And you kind of just work your way to the edge, and when you do that, you can kind of feel like a bit of a rib towards the end of the lip or the ear, and you can get a pretty good gauge just going off the feel from your finger when you're getting close to the edge of that hairline. And you just want to take it back to the edge of that hairline, just so you're getting the salt. And when it comes to tanning, like you get right to that edge, so you're not getting any hair slip or anything on those sort of more important parts of the facial features.
Definitely make sure it doesn't all rot through. How long do you reckon something like that took you? So once you got him down and you had him back at camp, how long do you reckon just the caping of the head or the skull took?
Probably a good 2 hours. I'd always lose track of time because I'm just so focused and doing it. But then by the time I'm finished and I sort of stand up, because I'm always slouched over, I'm like, holy hell, my back needs a good stretch after that one.
I know that feeling. Yeah, I always tell my wife, I'll just be about an hour. And then all of a sudden, like 2-3 hours later, I'm like, come up. And I'm like, oh, sorry. Took a little bit longer than I expected. She's like, you think?
Yeah, that's always the case. And then when it comes to like the nose, there's a piece of cartilage in the nose. You need to sort of split that down the center. And make sure you sort of get right to that skin line around the nose and even the eyelids. There's a little section inside the eyelids that you sort of got to take it, split them carefully a little bit, just so you're not losing any eyelashes and things like that.
Yeah, well. Do you know if is a taxidermist annoyed if you just rock up with the skull? Like if you rocked up with the cape kind of pre-done up to the head and then you don't know how to get the rest done, are they annoyed by that process, do you know? Or are they like, hey, we're happy you gave it to us?
I don't think so. Yeah, it sort of goes two ways. If you know what you're doing, they're definitely always thankful. And normally when I've taken to him, and even my red sag I took down, he was kind of surprised at the same time, like, oh shit, you kind of like have a bit of an idea of what you're doing. Someone's obviously
showing you some stuff.
The taxidermist in the past is showing you some stuff. But yeah, if you're not confident in doing that, you don't want to ruin anything, and you're able to get that head frozen or straight to the taxidermist in a short period of time. It's kind of what they do, and they have the experience and can probably do it in half the time that
at least, right,
me or someone else could. But they probably will tack on an extra bit of a charge just for their time.
Yeah, understandably. Yeah, I just think if I was to get a big old beast like that down this rut, and I was looking to do that, I would definitely, I don't know if I'd have the confidence to do it. Like, even when I'm trying to be careful, sometimes just caping out regularly, you punch holes through every once in a while. You're like, God damn it. Like, it's just when you're trying to speed up and whatever. I'm sure if you just take your time and make sure your knives are sharp and whatever else, it will all happen pretty easily. But, or I shouldn't say easily, but it's like, it's a learning process, right? It's like butchering an animal for the first time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, yeah, if you got the time to do it, but even then, like a little nick here and there, like I don't know if I've ever caped anything out completely perfectly without tiny little nick, but taxidermists these days are pretty good at stitching those up and hiding it under the hair, so you wouldn't even notice.
Yeah, 100%. So tell us the story about this big guy, because he was what? He was a 7 by, was he? 7 by
9. He had two, only little points up in his crowns, but still enough
Doesn't matter.
I think the old saying is if you can
put
hang a wedding ring off it or something,
exactly.
It counts.
Yeah, taking
it. Yeah, so he sort of showed up on the camera sort of at the start of the rut, nothing pre-rut, and he showed up on the camera. There was 2 really big ones, and we thought it was just one, but then after I'd shot this one, we worked out there was actually 2 separate stags that had sort of similar features, I guess.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and I took a fair bit of time off work this past rut because I really wanted to spend a fair bit of time sort of hitting it hard for the last couple of ruts before that and COVID and all that. Like I'd gotten sort of minimal time being able to hunt the rut, and I'm sure it's every bow hunter's favourite time of year. So yeah, I took 3 to 4 weeks off work, I think it was, and yeah, just hit it hard. I was just living up there in the mountains, and yeah, it was I got him towards the end of the second week, I think it was, and within those first 2 weeks, I think I did about 180 kilometres in the mountains underfoot, and that included 2 days that the weather was just atrocious, and I didn't even go out because I sort of suffered it for a few days. It was sort of wet and rainy and windy and misty and just terrible conditions. And yeah, I think 2 days I went out and I was just drenched like all day long and just still loving life. And yeah, still can't complain. I'd rather do that than sit here at home any day. But yeah, it just got to a point where I was like, I'll take a day off, try and dry out some of my clothes and
there's also
rest up a little bit and then get back into it if it clears.
I was going to say, there's also the situation of like, if you're not enjoying being out there, more than likely the animals are hidden away somewhere too, right? Like with weather like that, where it's really rainy and stormy and whatever, that obviously they can't just go home, but they're going to go somewhere. They're going to hide out where they can.
Yeah. It's the pigs seem to like it more than other species, but especially deer, like even just wind, not even the rain, just wind alone. If it's really windy, obviously deer have very sensitive and big ears and stuff. I know they don't like the wind, and yeah, if you're going to find them anywhere, they'll be tucked up in a tight gully out of the wind. But those are the sort of areas where you'll get the wind swirling in every direction, so it's nearly impossible.
Yeah. So you took a few days off.
But yeah, and I was hunting like just that hard, and I'd had a few opportunities on another big stag, which I still didn't know that there was 2 separate stags. So I thought it was just this big one I was chasing, and he was just moving around so much. He wasn't really held down with a group of hinds anywhere. He was kind of floating around, and one other I'd seen him, and he'd had 2 hinds held up. Obviously, one of them must have been in heat, and then I'd see him like the next day and he's just cruising solo and not really responding to roars or hind calls. Like he'd roar back, but he wouldn't make the effort to come to me, I guess. I was kind of always chasing his tail, and closest I seemed to be able to get was 80 metres on 3 separate occasions. And my best, at the time, what had been my best chance, he was in this gully that we've nicknamed Fallow Gully because in past years it's just been
littered,
filled with scrapes from the fallow and stuff. And yeah, once again, I got to about that 80 metre mark and located 2 of his hinds, and I could hear him roaring just up from them. And then next minute, this low flying plane that sounded 10 times louder than any other plane that ever flies over just came over the valley, and they just ran up the gully and up to the right, and I was like, oh, you got to be joking.
Of all things, like, bow hunting's not hard enough, and then a damn plane. Like, come on.
Yeah, so after that, I was like, God, I can't win the trick. But I just kept at it, and yeah, a couple of days after that, my old man, he ended up coming down and started hunting with me and stuff, and he's like, oh, he didn't even carry his bow for the first little bit, because he was like, oh, mate, like, I shot a good red a couple of years ago. Like, it's been a while, you're up. I'll do everything I can to help you out. And so the morning we left our cabin and cut across the gully, and we could hear this stag. He was right down low before daybreak. But his roars were what we sort of assumed were just a young stag. Like, they were kind of just like, just started off high pitched and then sort of droned out. And
almost like he wasn't having that much interest.
Yeah, but he was just roaring constant.
But just that constant, like that same sort of, that sort of sound the whole time, or was he doing big ones as well?
No, he was just doing that the whole time. That's why we just assumed that. Yeah, we just assumed that he was a young one, so we didn't sort of target him initially. But we did loop right up around him, sort of downwind, so that we didn't blow him out of the area. And we thought, if we don't sort of get onto another roaring stag or anything, we'll loop around with the wind in our face and just get eyes on him at least, and sort of see how close we can get in, see how he responds to calls and stuff like that. And yeah, so we went right up around, and as the morning sort of progressed, the thermal started to sort of drift up in our direction a little bit, and we went over the other side of those mountains there, and there wasn't anything for a little bit, so we're giving some roars, and then we ended up sparking up about 6 stags over the other side, but the wind was just terrible to even attempt to approach any of them. And yeah, I said to Mel, man, I was like, we'll just double back, and this stag's like only sort of 120 down below us. We'll try and get down and get eyes on it, because it was so thick through that section, and the vegetation was so high. It was just hard to see, stalking down, just trying to get eyes on him. I bumped a fallow spike it from only 2 meters, because that's how close I got before we could actually see each other.
You could see that on the video, right? Like the actual video that you have of him, it's dense, like it's thick.
Yeah, just thick green, viney undergrowth and grass and bushes and trees and everything. So it was hard stalking down in the direction, because kind of just had to draw a straight line with the wind and try and keep quiet through all that scrub and stuff. And we got down, and he was holding on this bit of a bench, which is typical of red stags. They like to sort of have a bit of height on the mountains.
Definitely.
2/3, 3/4 of the way up, and they'll just find a nice sort of flat bench that they can sort of
look over the valley,
cruise around on. And so he was holding on this bit of a bench that we knew exactly where he was. And just as we started moving down, just turned to that time of morning where sun's sort of up a bit, starting to warm up. And normally the stags, they sort of shut up shop and go a bit quiet, because they've been up majority of the night chasing girls around, roaring all morning, and that's sort of when they try to get their naps in and stuff. So we just kept sort of pushing down, because he was working his way up around to the head of this, back up into the head of this big basin, and we were kind of just tailing him, and some of his hinds were trailing behind, and we got eyes on him of him walking away, and we were just that one little gully behind him, and he was going over the next one as we were just cresting, and we caught his tail end and just saw that he had a fair bit of mass sort of up top and good length. And I was like,
this is a stag
worth oh yeah. Yeah. So I was like, need to sort of take it a bit slower and try and make a play on this fella. And we tried hind calling to get him to turn back as if he'd sort of left a hind behind.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He stopped and looked back and roared at us just before he sort of went out of sight over into the next little gully, and we actually drew one of his hinds back. She came back looking, and she was coming towards us, and we were just hoping that he'd turn around and trail her, but he didn't. And she ended up coming up into about 15 meters, and we were just kind of tucked in, trying not to blow her out, because we knew she'd start barking and go straight to the others. But she came in, and once we realised he wasn't following her, we kind of just kept quiet, and she wandered in and then fed around in front of us pretty close. We're lucky the wind held out, and then sort of lost interest and sort of went back the way she came. So we followed her, assuming that she'd lead us to the rest of them.
Yeah. And
we got over, and in that next gully where we saw him go, all these hinds are sort of mobbed up in a group. I think at about 8 or 9 total, and they were kind of all mobbed up, and they were once again sort of just heading off into the next little finger around from us again. And we were like, God, we're still trailing behind him. And then directly down from us, I hear this real light moan that I barely heard it, but it was, you could tell it was close. It just wasn't loud.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh.
I reckon that's like a locator, right? Like I've heard that exact same rule that you're talking about. It's just like when the girls just get that little bit too far away, they just go, "Oi, come back," sort of thing. Like it's just like a quick, "I'm still here, girls," sort of situation. Hey.
Yeah. Yep. So I kind of it was just one, and I was like, "Oh, there's definitely something down here. Whether it's another young stag that he's sort of drawn in, and then I actually found him, he bedded. And those real sort of low, quiet moans he was giving out, he was giving while he was bedded down. I think he was sort of like, his girls wanted to keep feeding, keep moving off, and he's kind of done for the morning and wanted to hold up and have a rest.
Yeah, wow.
So I stalked down. We got to 50, and he was bedded kind of quartering on with a little bit of sort of shrub across in front of him anyway. So it was just terrible shot.
Mm-hmm.
There was, no shot there. Just too much bone, even if it was like a direct clear shot.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to wait for him to stand at some point. So we were just there watching him, and our man's up behind me looking through the binos, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, he's not bad." And I was like, he's like, "It's up to you whether you want to shoot him." And I just turned back and I was like, I've hunted too hard the last couple of weeks. I'm not passing up an opportunity on a mature stag.
Yeah.
And to begin with, like we only thought he was like a nice 6'6", and then
wow.
we ended up being above him bedded for close to an hour before he stood. And throughout that period of time, he was sort of every now and again he'd tip his nose to the ground, and you could sort of see his eyes were closed only for a couple of minutes, and then he'd put his head up and he'd look around again. So trying to close the gap from there would have been
doable. Too risky, right?
It would have been risky. Yeah, like the closer I would have been able to make it anyway, I could have maybe gained like another 8 to 10 meters, and then there was like, with the steepness, there was no real cover, and we were kind of in direct line of sight from him, so we kind of just held up where we were. And after about half an hour passed, my man's looking down through the binos, and I'm just there with an arrow, just waiting and waiting and waiting. It felt like an eternity. I'm just there, like right beside the tree, and I'm like laying my rest of my head on the tree, and I'm like, any day now, because I didn't really want to call and like draw his attention up to us, because it was
be constantly walking then.
A pretty long shot like that. It's up there with, not very often I'll take a shot at that distance. It just so happened that leading up to the rut, practicing, like I always like to practice a lot further distances than what I'll shoot in a hunting situation.
Definitely.
So I was like practicing at 70 meters and like hitting a tennis ball at 70 meters nearly every time. So I was like really, really confident that I'd be able to put that arrow where it needed to be at that distance. And red deer are a big animal, but in saying that, they can move just as quick as a fallow or a smaller target anyway. So just because they're big, you don't really want to tell yourself, "Oh, bigger target, I can shoot at it from a further distance."
No, definitely not. Yeah. But it's funny, I actually read this post today and I was like, you know what, I need to actually start shooting out further. Like I need to get practicing for the rut now. And that's going to look like longer shots as well. Like I want to start getting to range. Like I've got a 40-meter range at home, and I shoot that a lot. No, not recently, but yeah, I usually shoot that a lot in the lead up to a hunt. But I think, coming up to the rut this year, I want to do the same sort of thing, like 50, 60, 70, practicing quite a lot. So I need to get out to the range more. But yeah, sorry. I just want to ask, before we keep going, in the walking down to actually find him, like you said, you could hear him, but you couldn't see him. Was it just slow sort of moving through that bush, like that thick bushery as you could? Because it's like to give reference, like there's not really anywhere you can go without rubbing your bag and your back in general or body up against some bush, essentially, with how thick it looks. Is that kind of an accurate statement?
Yeah, definitely. So, we were just taking it sort of slow enough to not crack sticks or make any major sort of ruckus to draw attention, but you can't make no noise. Like
it's just
you
impossible.
kind of learn what sort of noise you can get away with.
Yeah.
Depending
on the wind.
So
we
were taking it slow. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we're taking it slow and watching our foot placement and stuff, but then trying to find better paths like around bushes and stuff like that. And then, it got to the point where we could sort of see down into the bit of a gully a bit more. And I just had the binos up and caught the tips of his antlers. And I thought, I didn't know he was bedded to begin with, because all I could see was tips of his antlers. And you'd see that he was looking around and stuff. And then I saw like the antlers tip forward. And I was like, oh, oh, he must be like at a wallow or something. And then when his antlers tipped forward and I knew his head was down, I sort of took a couple more steps until he was in view, and yeah, he was bedded. And from there, with him in sight, we kind of sort of weaved our way through a few pretty big trees and stuff, and I got myself sort of in front into a clear enough position that I could shoot with enough limb clearance on the branches and stuff above me, because we were in the shade under pretty heavy cover, so
yeah,
you can kind of get away with a little bit more movement when you're in the shade. If it's sort of slow and you've got your eyes on the animal, you can
get away. Yeah, definitely. So
sort of know.
How much did you range? Like, because obviously you had your alley that you wanted him to go through, but was there other ways he could have potentially snuck off that you had shooting ranges on as well?
Yeah, so the first 15 minutes, because I wasn't really sure how long he was going to stay bedded for with his hinds having moved off. And I was ranging like a maniac. I was getting all sorts of distances to begin with. I was trying to just get a solid range on his body because he had a little bit of stuff in front of him. He was bedded sort of this side of this big bush, and I ranged it, and it was like 52.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah, he looks about sort of 2 meters off that. And then I get a try, thinking I was like directly on his rump, and I get like 48. And I was like, oh, it didn't really look like a 4 meter difference. And I was like, it was only within a couple of meters, but at that distance, like a couple of meters does make a bit of a difference.
Definitely.
And yeah, I got to the point where I kind of just averaged it out, and I was like, yeah, he's got to be 50, or if not, if I'm a meter off, like being a bigger animal, sort of do have a little bit of room to play with. So yeah, I was pretty confident that I had the range on him fairly well, and I did sort of range a few. I think there was a log if he got up and walked left a little ways, and then to the right there was a tree, and I ranged them just to get a bit of an idea of the difference in distance there. But yeah, after about an hour passed by, he finally stood up and sort of milled around on the spot, and I still had that shrub sort of in the way, and then he turned and faced to the left broadside, and that's when I drew. And yeah, he sort of turned quartering away and then went to turn back the other direction, and I settled the pin, and I just had it like rock solid on him and let it fly. And then just as I was going through my shot sequence, he kind of continued to sort of turn away, so I ended up at a pretty hard quartering away by the time sort of the shot went off and the arrow got there. And it sort of entered and would have got, because it was so steep quartering away, it sort of entered and caught the lung on the entry side, but then because his body was turned, it exited sort of out through the middle of his neck.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, when I saw the Fletchers like go through and he turned at the same time, it was all a bit of a blur, and I kind of thought, oh shit, like I've only just caught the edge of him kind of thing. And he sort of gave a bit of a kick and leaped up over, took a few big leaps over all the foliage and shrubs and that, and went around and followed this pad that his hinds followed around, and sort of went around there. And I just wasted no time at all. And I was like, before he even got out of sight, I had another arrow on the string and was hastily making my way down towards him, trying to stay as quiet as possible, try not to slip over too much because of how steep it was. And got down to the pad where he sort of run around, and there was just thick blood to begin with. And I'm thinking that on the exit, as it sort of came out through the middle of his chest and neck there, I think it's called the jugular or one of those major arteries, because it was just like a hose. And there was sort of a big puddle where he must have stood for a little bit. Mm-hmm. He must have been behind cover, like as I was making my way down like towards him, but you could see where he'd stood there for a little bit. And then as the pad sort of went around the corner, sort of over the crest of Little Finger Ridge, there was just these thick, dense, like big, not like briar bushes, but yeah, just these thick, shrubby bushes that are full of sticks and stuff. And as I was going around, I could just like see his arse end and the red through the thing. And I was like, oh, he's right there. He only made it like probably run 40, 50 max from this point that I'd hit him. and his head, I could see his antlers, just making out his antlers through all the sticks and stuff, and his head was sort of swaying about as if he was in trouble. And I was just there, sort of ready to draw back at any moment. It's like creeping closer and closer towards him, and he was sort of on his side, and then he sort of rolled back up and kind of must have got a bit of an adrenaline hit or a second wind, and actually tried to get back up onto his feet again. So I drew back. I didn't even think about it. I just sort of drew back, and I was probably only like 3 meters off him, but with these dense cover, I could barely see him. I could only really see his arse end and then his antlers sort of sticking up at the top. And I just let one go sort of straight in where I'd estimated his heart would have been at the angle that he was on. And I don't know how this arrow I never usually like shoot through scrubs because ricochet is like the tiniest blade of grass can affect the arrow flight.
Yeah.
But at 3 3 meters, this arrow somehow, I've got it on film, I'll have to send you the little clip of it. This arrow somehow threaded the needle through this thick, dense bush and just hit him perfect in that pocket. And from there, he only made another 5 meters from there. So,
yeah, dude, that's crazy. Yeah, I actually tried to shoot a pig like really close through thick. It was like thick blackberry, and I literally just hit one bit of blackberry and just completely jumped and missed this pig. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, the same thing happened with me and a red. I brought Hein called a red right up to me, and I was literally as me and a Y tree, pretty much like a tree with the smallest little Y V through it, and I was going to shoot through that, but because he was so close and where I was shooting from, where my eye, like the peep was compared to where the arrow height was, that was enough of a difference to stuff the whole shot up for me. So I hit the tree and just shot off to the side. I was like, no.
Oh no.
But yeah, it's happened plenty of times. But dude, that's just absolutely incredible for it to come out like that. And what a just an amazing beast of an animal. It's so cool. So tell me, in the lead up to that, you said you did some hind calls to try calling back. What had you done prior to that? Or were you roaring or anything when you were trying to locate the other guys, when you got the other 6 also yelling at the start of the day?
I normally just use roaring as the main locator, even when it's quiet. If you sort of go out and you know it's a good area for stags, and there's been stags hanging there in the past and stuff, even if it's early rut or whatever, like it doesn't hurt to give out some roars. And there's been lots of times you go out and it could be completely dead in the morning. You just give out. It might not happen on the first lot of roars. You might give 2 or 3 roars and then wait 20 minutes and then go again. But a lot of the time you'll actually spark them up and get them sort of into the mode, I guess. And you get one going and then another one will sort of join in, and you sort of, spark the whole place up and get them all roaring again. So we use roars sort of to locate him, because there are a few periods of time where we hadn't heard anything for probably 20 minutes, and we're still slowly making our way in the direction, hadn't heard anything. So I kind of turn around, face the other direction and give a roar just so he kind of wasn't threatened that I was getting too close or anything, I guess. And in doing that, he would respond every now and again, and that's when we worked out that he was sort of pushing his way back up to the head of gully. So after that, we kind of canned the roars and thought, this guy must have a bit of age and hunting his hinds off. He's sort of not real keen on coming over. Young stags you'll normally draw young stags in a lot more of the time, and those big mature stags, they kind of
hang off.
Yeah, not really. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I'm super excited for the rut this year. Like, it's each year, the excitement grows more and more for me. I think this will be, I'm not sure if this is my 4th or 5th rut, but it's like I'm just so pumped. And you see the different videos around, all the reds roaring and stuff. I'm just like, I'm like talking about this just now. It's like almost like when you get when you hear about food when you're hungry and you start to salivate. I reckon the same thing happens for bow hunters and the rut. It's like, I don't know, it's just an addictive thing, and I'm so excited to try it. I've got a friend actually that he goes out. He's got a block with some reds up here in the Brisbane Valley, and he just gets out with his phone. And he'll just press the roar button on his phone, and it just goes off for a minute, and then all of a sudden the hills just light up for him. He's like, "Yeah, I'm I don't want to try to do the roar because I don't want to stuff it up. But at the same time, like I reckon I've made some pretty funky calls out there, and you still get responses as long as it somewhat sounds like a red deer.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried. You don't have to get it pitch perfect or anything. And like even like that stag of mine, his roar was not what I would assume as a big stag, because normally the big stags are holding hinds and fighting off a lot of satellite stags. Mm-hmm. You'll hear them in their real deep guttural roars, and they'll give the
yeah.
And this guy was just none of that. He was just sort of this light, started off a high pitch, and what majority of people would assume is sort of a young stag, or what I've heard young stags in the past. They're kind of trying to find their voice and that, and sometimes you sort of hear it and you sort of cringe and you're like, was that someone else, or was that a young buck trying to have a go?
That's funny. Yeah, actually, I remember one time like being on the side of the hill, and there was a big boy roaring, but just before I got to him, there's a little spiker just hanging off the side of him. I'm like, damn it. So I just tried to hind call the big boy in, but the spiker just kept running back, and then he'd run over to me, then he'd run back over to the big boy, and then run back over to me, and then run over to the big boy. And eventually I was like, I need a meat filler anyway, like a freezer filler, so I'll take this little spiky. He like when I finally got around to the big boy, he was just sitting there he just had a girl with him. He just didn't care. He was happy to roar his ass off all day, but he just wouldn't move because he had a girl right next to him.
Yeah. If they've got a hind or a doe to the fallow and stuff, they've got one that's on heat, they will not let it out of its sight. If she tries to break away and make a run for it, he'll be right after her.
Yeah. It's funny how much they almost like harass them, right? Like stay on their tail, just running around after them constantly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. So
it can sort of.
Go on.
No, it can work in your favour sometimes, I guess. There has been the odd occasion that sometimes that hind will make a breakaway or sort of circle back, and he might sort of be a bit lost. And if you can get him in that situation and sort of draw his attention, you can end up sort of convincing him that you're the girl he was just chasing, and
true,
or another one sort of in that area, and you might have a chance of drawing him in.
Yeah, a few years ago, Nick Morton said to me, he's like, dude, if you can see a hind walking off and get between where the hind is gone and the red stag is, you're probably going to be pretty likely to be able to sabotage him as he goes past you, kind of thing, like, because he's going to always be chasing that scent. So if you can kind of just sit off to the side, you'll usually be able to find, or hopefully usually get a shot on one of those big boys. But yeah, it was interesting that you were saying that you had essentially 3 weeks out in the bush, and it took you almost the 2 whole weeks to get it done. I'm trying to figure out what to do for this year. I've definitely got probably a week up there, but I'm trying to tee up more. It's just trying to figure out work and whatever else around it, family as well. What sort of dates were you up there from until?
Yeah, so for our area, I know it sort of varies a bit to where you are up in Queensland and that. Mm-hmm. But for our area, the rut can start for the reds as early as sort of the middle of March, because I think my first day, I think I've got footage on the 16th of March, and it's actually the stag that James ended up.
No way.
Yeah, end up getting. So that was the first stag I heard roaring on the 16th. And, Michael Humphreys only had 2 days of work, and he made the trip up to come hunt with me, and we got on that stag that morning, and he was roaring pretty hard and holding quite a few hinds for that early. And then I think I shot mine on the 28th, I think it was.
Of March?
Yeah, of March. Yeah. And that was probably towards the end of the peak week, I'd say, for roaring action and stuff. As a rule of thumb for our area, I've always said that last week of March is a pretty good time, especially that last weekend in March. Normally falls on the last couple of days just before you head into April. Yeah. It's normally sort of, you're nearly guaranteed you're going to be in the sort of the peak of the red deer up for there. And then by about the 6th, 7th, some of the reds sort of start die off, and then that's when the fallow are sort of in their peak in that first 2 weeks of April there. So
there you go.
They kind of overlap a bit.
Yeah, I reckon we're about a week behind you, to be honest. Like I've actually heard a red, like a young red. It was one time when James was actually with me. We heard a red roar on the 18th of March. I'm pretty certain it was. It was either 18th or the 20th. But yeah, pretty much last year, I remember had friends that were out from the first week of April, and they just had roaring nonstop all week. Like they were just in fine form that whole first week of April. So I reckon pretty much we're maybe about a week behind you guys.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, that makes sense. That's sort of, what I would assume from all the stuff I've sort of seen from you guys up in that area. So just
Brisbane
tailing us by a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, that's like one of the big things for you this year, but you also ticked off a lot of other things this year, right? Like you had a lot of different PBs that came about for you. Was it 2 different bores? You kind of upgraded twice?
Yeah, so, I think the previous year I shot a really old boar that was pretty hooky, but it was uneven. I think one side scored only 27, but the other side went 29 and 6.8. So I kind of class him as my PB just because that his good side, if he was even, he kind of just pulled short in the jaw on one side, like out of the jaw. Yeah, he was pretty even, and I thought, this is probably my best chance at getting a 30-pointer out of the mountains. And one side just pulled up short. But yeah, I shot 2 boards early. I think they were both before the rut. One was the first couple of days of the year, and man, it was hot as anything. But this boar was rutting on a sow, and I had to get to him before dark, and I think I literally ran about 2 Ks, and I was the biggest lather of sweat, red in the face. Finally got the wind right around in front of him. And he'd come into like a bit of a soak at the base of this tree, a bit of a spring that was coming out of the side of the mountain, and all the younger pigs of the mob had already come down to there. And he sort of trailed in last, following the sow that must have been on heat. And come in and got a shot on him and took his heart out, and he went nowhere. He was pretty good, tusky fella. And then not long before the rut, I think I was out checking cameras or something, and got the drop on another real tusky fella. He went, I think it was about 27.5 or 28.
Yeah, wow.
For some reason, I'm always struggling to crack the solid 28 mark with all the balls I shoot out of the mountain. They don't seem to pull as well as up in the Cape or other areas. I've got plenty hanging out the mouth, which is always a good sight and gets you excited.
Definitely. Still a lot of teeth, right?
The score and stuff. Oh, yeah. Yeah, not that the score or anything takes away from it at all.
Definitely not. But, like, how many 30 inches are getting taken down in the mountains in Tamworth? Like, I think I saw, what's his name? I'm out of tune. I'd like, you don't see that many of them, right?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, when you do find a good one, they're sort of few and far between, so you got to try and make it happen when you get that chance. And they can be hard to find at times. So I was pretty lucky I was able to capitalise on those two situations. And then my rut was, even though I hunted for a lot of consecutive days and stuff, so there were a lot of days in between where I hadn't shot anything, but I was still getting out there and seeing a lot. I was just sort of picking and choosing. I shot two reasonable tusky boars throughout the rut. One of them was actually only 50 metres from a young roaring stag, because I was looking at the stag and then the boar comes up out of the gully and I was like, I'm not passing up a good boar in the rut. and I think I tagged a fox. I saw hunting around in the grass and put a stalk in on him. And then, got my red down. And then I think it was only 2. It was the evening just before Jack shot his red, because that following morning when I went up there to take his head and stuff, because the night after I shot him and stuff, I took the meat instead of the head, and I was like, I can come back for the head tomorrow stuff, but I won't sort of leave the meat overnight because it wasn't sort of the coldest the nights had been for that time of year. And yeah, it was when I was up retrieving the head off that fallow buck. So when my phone, I didn't even know I could get service in that part of the place. My phone just started ringing. I pulled it out. It's Jack, and I was like, oh, this will be good. I know what this is, because he told me what his game plan was the couple of days before, and yeah, he called me and he's like, oh, I'm glad you've got service. He's like, I've tried calling James. I don't know where he is. His dad was coming up, I think that afternoon or something in the hunting camp, and my old man was a couple of k's over the other side of the property, sort of doing his own thing. And Jack called me and he's like, oh, you won't believe what I've done. I've finally done it. And I was like, you got one down, did you? And he's like, dude, I can't even speak right now. And I was like, rightio. I was like, you need some assistance? And he's like, oh yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I might get some photos and stuff. So yeah, I loaded up this me fella head in my pack and just started hiking. I think it was about a 4 or 5K hike, and yeah, I hiked all the way over and helped him with photos and helped him cape it out and carry the meat and all that back down to his camp and stuff. And then yeah, the rest of the arvo after that.
That's Jack Cricket for everyone listening. So yeah, that's actually an episode we've done just recently. So yeah, you can head back and listen to that one, that whole story, the recap of that read as well.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then yeah, that arvo, I kind of just was happy chilling out at camp with him, helping him cape it out, and I was caping the face out. And then Dunga finally turned up and goes, oh, I've got some ear pliers in my use if you want me to do the ears. And I was like, oh, dude, thank you, please. So yeah, no, that was pretty cool. Arvo sort of, yeah, I got a good red and a fallow down, and I think Cos, who was with James when he shot his red, I think that morning or afternoon or the day before, like around that time, he'd shot a really good 240 model fallow buck with Jack. So it was pretty cool arvo in camp, just chilling out.
Incredible. Some good stories.
I think we were just eating James' stash of Nutella sandwiches.
Surprised it wasn't his Nesquik.
Oh, yeah.
The old fart machine. Dude, did you ever actually get your red deer aged at all?
No, I haven't. We kind of compared at the end of the rut after James had also got his stag down. We had all three of them there in camp and just looking at the teeth. And James's stag was actually a lot older because I'd seen him he was the first stag I saw that I told you about. And then I know Jack had a stalk on him in some real high grass, and that was the same stag again, about 2Ks from the location that I'd seen him. And then I think it was James's first morning when he got to camp, I'd stalked down on this stag that was roaring, and it was that same stag again. He's bedded, and I got photos of him sort of bedded down below us. And yeah, I passed him up just because I was sort of the point where I was only going to sort of take a stag if he was going to be a PB for me kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew James, he was coming and wouldn't pass up the opportunity on a good stag and stuff. So I kind of, was happy to pass him up in hopes that one of the other boys would be able to get a chance and stuff. And then, from where I saw him that time to where James shot him, he travelled another, I think it was about 4 or 5K again. So he was getting around.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, James did well. Yeah, James did well to get the drop on him. So James's stag was actually going off his teeth, and his mass and stuff was a lot older than what I'd
first thought
estimated on those times that I did pass him up. And Jack's stag had some age. We'd actually seen Jack's stag for I think I can think of 4 ruts prior, but never really got a look at him. We just know it's that same stag just going off his brows and how he's got that real rounded shape, and he tips in real close at the top. And there was one year that stag was, I think he was always missing his seconds just genetically, but there was a year where he had crowns of 4 on both sides and was really even. And yeah, he got to that stage where he started to sort of go backwards. His points had started to shorten up, but he was just holding a lot more mass. So out of those 3 stags, I think mine was potentially
one of
the youngest out of them. And I kind of estimated that mine was probably around the 7.
Yeah, I was going to say 7 or 8.
7 years of age.
I was going to say because it was Clark McGee that told me that with the reds, the flatter the brow, is it brow and bay, the next one up, tines?
Yes.
The flatter that they are, essentially, the older they are. So they'll curve to start there'll be quite a narrow curve, whereas yours is like really flat out and then it has a little curve at the very end. He said that's very kind of, I think it generally happens with the older boys. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, he could have been older. Like his teeth weren't as worn down as some of the others, but then again, like he could have been living in areas sort of out of season, sort of on sorghum crops or something that's a bit better feed and sort of hadn't gone through as tough times like through that drought period as what some of the other stags might have been. So
yeah, that's interesting. And so, how about this 45-inch Billy? He's a big boy.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of goats where you are?
Yeah, we do get quite a few goats on our place, but there are a lot smaller bodied goats.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so a smaller body kind of shrink their horns in reference to that, I guess, which makes it really hard to accurately judge goats when they're on the hoof because it's hard to know how big their body is.
Yes, definitely. So you see,
and that's kind of what you're judging their horns to.
You're saying on your block, essentially, you see something that looks like it's got big horns, but really it doesn't because it's actually a small body goat in a sense.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so the previous year I'd shot a Billy off our place that I was convinced was 40 inches. And the whole time it was one of the hardest hunts I've put in, and it was over a goat of all things. And for this massive day and multiple stalks, and the wind was just not working for me. It was, but finally got the drop on him. And even when he was on the hoof, like around the other goats, he looked big, like even his body looked big. And then I got him on the ground, and this thing was, I could like grab him on the scruff of the back with 2 hands and lift him up. Like he was pretty small in the body. And as for reference, his horns only just made it over 38 inches. So,
okay.
And at the time, he was my PB there, but then that kind of solidified the fact that those goats that we get are a lot smaller in the body compared to sort of out west. Out west of Burke, the goats out there are really big in the body. So that sort of horn reference, when they're broadside and then turned looking at you, I normally say if that horn goes sort of back to the hip, he's definitely over 40.
Yeah.
That wasn't exactly the case with ours just because they are a bit smaller in the body.
So what
I've seen,
kind of reference do you usually
years.
work on then? Like, is there something that you try to, if hitting the hip is the reference point, do you kind of say, okay, well, if it's on the rump or if it's further down, like when it turns, what's your referencing?
Yeah, so only recently after sort of getting that one down and getting the few that I did this year for our area and the size of our goats, it would, if you're looking at it on the hoof, it would have to make you think it's 45 for it to be over that 40 mark, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you estimate it, what you normally would as other goats, you kind of, knock a couple of inches off that. And
so
I'd probably take that as your guess.
Sorry. Yeah, got you. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So that big fella I got, he wasn't on our block. He was up Barraba way.
Oh wow.
And the goats up there, they are the one. Oh, it was funny that on this one day I got 2 40s, and the first one early in the morning, he just made a whisker over the 40-inch mark, and I was stoked. I couldn't believe I'd finally, after 18 years of bow hunting, finally found a 40-incher out in the wild and got the drop on him. And he was a little bit bigger than the goats on our place down there, but then again, he wasn't overly huge in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got him down, you could sort of see, like, on the hoof compared to him on the ground, like on the hoof, he sort of looked 42. And then when he was on the ground, he did clear that 40 mark. And I was wrapped with that. And then about 2 hours later, we sort of hiked up to a different spot just chasing boars and stuff. And this big mob of goats just started sort of falling out in the distance. And I was just looking at them, and there was just like billy after billy after billy. And I was like, oh, there's a few decent sets of horns in here. I'll have to go get a bit closer and get a better look. And yeah, that big fella, he was a standout for body size and his horns, because his horns sort of go up a fair bit. So he was real high horned, and yeah, so he was definitely a standout. There was one that was close second to him, but he was definitely the standout for the entire mob. And as soon as I like got eyes on him, I was like, holy crap, like this thing is a record breaker. This thing's like proper big. And yeah, so they were out on this real open sort of long grass, but it was open, not a lot of trees and stuff. So we just waited back until they sort of fed around for the wind to be in a better direction for us. And yeah, started stalking in and sort of got to the last little group of trees before we were sort of just out in the long grass. And I spotted a fox in the grass, and my old man was with me again. And yeah, you never pass up an opportunity on a fox, even if there is something big standing just on the other side of it. So we tucked into these trees, and I just gave a few squeaks, and this fox like came into me because I set up. There was sort of 3 trees like in a triangle, and I sort of stayed on the one at the back left, and my old man went over to the right, and I was like, you go over there and I'll squeak him towards me, and then that'll give you like a broadside shot, and I'll call him past you. And it worked out perfectly, and he did that. And my old man slipped one through him, and yeah, that fox went nowhere. And my attention was just the whole time, even when I was squeaking this fox, waiting for him to come through the grass, I was there just like had the camera, and I was filming it, but my eyes just kept like glancing over to these goats. And I was like, oh, I don't go too far.
Yeah.
So yeah, my old man got a drop on that fox, and then we proceeded to make the stalking on these goats. And we were kind of sort of coming in sort of behind them at a bit of an angle. And it was pretty big mob, so it was kind of hard to pick him out to begin with. And we were getting pretty close to some goats, but we couldn't obviously get right in amongst them. We sort of had to stay back so that.
So you just belly crawling at this stage?
We sort of. I crouched down, so I dropped the packs and that.
Okay.
Back at the trees where my old man shot that fox. And we were just stalking in, and the grass was like pretty high, like probably above the hips, but still below the chest, like in some sections. And there was a bit of that purple top, real tall, wiry stuff. That was like the purple flower. I don't know what it's actually called. We just call it purple top. Yeah. There was a bit of that sort of sporadic throughout the long grass. So there was a little bit of cover, and we'd only move when the goats had their heads down. If one lifted their head up and start walking to sort of keep pace with the mob, we'd sort of crouch down if we knew he was sort of going to come past and stuff. Sort of stay out of sight and not move, and their attention was sort of on feeding the rest of the mob. Mm-hmm. So you could kind of get away with a little bit of noise and stuff. We weren't really worried about noise walking through the grass because, the goats were making enough noise themselves.
Definitely, when there's that many.
I finally got eyes. Yeah, finally like located this big fella, and he was kind of sort of in the middle, and the mob was sort of just spread out, and I just beelined it sort of in behind him and made it pretty close. I think the shot would have been all of 8 meters or something. And he was quartering away pretty hard, and it was a little bit of a rush shot, but it was at a close distance. So I wasn't really too worried about that. There was just a few goats that were sort of trailing over the left, decided they'd cut back around towards us. So I sort of took the opportunity when I had it on a steep quartering away shot. Mm-hmm. And the arrow actually, because I was aiming sort of last rib kind of thing for reference, angling through to hit the point of the offside shoulder. And when the arrow hit, and like after once we got him down and had a look, the broadhead sort of hit the outside of the ribs. And one thing that can be an issue on steep quartering away shots is, it got on the outside of the ribs and ran down and actually opened up the side of him, and then buried once the arrow sort of got into his armpit and the pocket there.
No way. So you're saying it ran along the ribs and then cut in?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was pretty steep, and like goats have a pretty sort of big gut on them, I guess, compared to like a boar or a deer or something.
Definitely.
And it was a 3 blade. I I think I used on that one. And yeah, it definitely didn't go in exactly on first impact. It sort of ran down. So he had like a bit of a gash, probably 5 to 8 inches. So I'd opened him up a bit and then buried him in the pocket. Then yeah, when he sort of, that happened, he sort of took a couple of steps. I just quickly, as I always do, just knock another arrow no matter what, just in case if you get a second chance, like
go for it.
Obviously, it's awesome having that one arrow, perfect shot, ethical kill down in a couple of seconds kind of thing, but it doesn't always pan out like that. And
Exactly.
if you do happen to get a second opportunity, whether it is needed or not, you're better off just taking it rather than risking it. And you're also doing the animal a favour as well.
Dead is good, but dead is better.
Doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so yeah, he like that arrow buried into his armpit in the pocket in the front of the chest cavity, and yeah, he was in trouble. But yeah, from the first shot to the second shot, it was probably all of 3-4 seconds in it, and then from that, when that second arrow zipped straight through him, he took 1 or 2 steps and laid over.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, you're probably quite lucky the way that the first arrow played out, right? I've actually seen shots like that where it just runs along the ribcage and doesn't do anything. And you think it's the perfect shot, exact same shot you're talking about, like a pretty harsh angle. And yeah, just along the ribs and just gone. And probably lucky you having the 3 blades on that day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I was pretty lucky it buried into his pocket there as it did. I was actually surprised that it did that because, yeah, I'm shooting pretty high poundage with a very heavy arrow setup, so it's got a lot of kinetic energy and driving force.
Yeah,
I've never had this happen in the past either. Can't think of a situation where I've ever had that happen again. So I was surprised that it happened in that situation, but
it's like
got the result in the end. And
freak physics accident, right? Like the way that the angles must have worked or something. What is you still running the Ventum?
Yeah, so I've got the Ventum Pro 33. It's an 80-pound model.
Yeah.
And I'm a 29-inch draw. I think technically I'm like a 29 and a quarter for it to be perfectly comfortable. But it's hard to get that little in between. There's some run a 29, and I've just sort of run a D loop that's slightly longer than the average person.
Yeah, I
just
like
to
that
get that extra little bit of a bit of length to my anchor point. And having that slightly longer D loop also helps. It's kind of has that bit of slack to take up any torque or anything in your release and stuff. So you got no torque on the string affecting your shot or your arrow flight out of the bow. So that's what I'm running at the moment. And when I got a brand new gas bowstring, I shot it a bit. And once it sort of settled in, I've twisted the cables up and tuned it so it's pumping out about 83 pounds, and my arrow weight is currently 588 grains. So
yeah, we're pretty darn similar. I'm just under 30-incher in my draw. But that was the D loop thing. That was something that happened to me by accident, I think. Like, I don't know. Shane from Bowhunter's Domain did a lot of my, like, he does a lot of my bow tuning for me, and he just said that one day for me, and it was just longer than what it was prior. And I don't know if he purposefully did it or what, but I loved it. As soon as it happened, I just noticed a big difference. And this time around, I requested. I was like, "Hey, dude, when you change the strings, let's make sure that we got a longer D loop on it again." And he did it, and I love it. I think it's a good little hack.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of it. Some people don't like it, but I don't see how there's any. You're not losing anything in doing that at all. And for people that are struggling to sort of get that extra little bit of length in their draw length, that's a really good little hack to do that. If you lengthen some people lengthen their wrist strap or their like release, but I like to have that for an index release. I like to have that trigger sort of back in the second knuckle there.
Yeah.
So some people compensate their draw length by lengthening their release a bit, but then you sort of got that at the tip of your finger, and it's a lot harder to squeeze the shot off and use back tension, and you're more prone to sort of punching the trigger, I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
Adding a little bit of extra length in your D loops a good way, and then another one is removing the grip off your bow or replacing the bow grip with the more slimline one to give yourself an extra little bit of length in your hand there.
Yeah, wow. I'd never really thought of that. It's funny. I never thought of the torque side of things with the D loop either. That makes a lot of sense. Like, even if it's minuscule, it could make a big difference, especially over your longer shots, like your 40, 50 meter shots. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. I thought that sort of in the past is the logic behind it, but never really put it to the test. And it was only recently I was down at the Bowhunting store just flinging some arrows late one arvo with Nick, and he had an index back tension release. I can't remember the brand or what it was called, but it was an index release with back tension, and he was shooting it out of his bow, but then he was having an issue with when he go back to another release that he was getting like different tuning, and he was out and he was moving left and right, and then I was like, "Oh, give us a go at this release." And there were a couple of times like he was struggling to get the release to go off, and he handed it to me, and I shot it out of my bow. Then there was no difference. And what we worked out is the pressure that you had to have on that index finger of that release was actually causing it to sort of put a bit of torque on the string. Wow, and because my D loop was a bit thinner and longer, it was taking up that torque and wasn't really affecting it at the point of the string.
How crazy.
Whereas with Nick's bow, it was. And yeah, we ended up working out that was the issue the whole time. So
that would have been so frustrating as well for Nick. Like, he would have just been sitting there like tuning the bow, trying to change it each time. Yeah, I haven't got that much into the tuning side of things. I always go to someone else and put that frustration onto them instead. It's like, you can deal with it. But you're quite a tinkerer, right? Like, you play with it quite a lot with your bow.
Yeah, I have recently. In the past, growing up, it always used to frustrate the hell out of me because I could never get a perfect bullet hole. And there were a few things like growing up. I think early on, I did briefly go through a stage of target panic. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I really had the guidance of Brad Smith, Robbie Austin, and some of the McCulloch boys and all them, because I sort of grew up. I was a young fella, and all they were based out of Tamworth. I sort of grew up hunting with all them, and that really helped along with my old man, sort of learning the ropes and getting a few sort of fast tracks through the learning process. And I can't remember when it was, but I know I was pretty young, and I went through a really bad stage of target panic. And when in hunting situations, it kind of just felt like excitement at the shot, and I just couldn't like hold my composure and stuff. And there were a few shots stuffed up, and kind of just had to bring it all back. And I remember my old man got like I think it was a Carter squeeze me or something, like some form of back tension release.
Yeah.
And I just learnt how to finally get that to fire after a lot of attempts and frustration, and went back to just shooting like at a big, just bare bale, not looking at a spot, like shooting close range, eyes closed, and got myself out of that target panic stage pretty quick actually. And ever since then, even with a light index trigger release, I've never had an issue with punching the trigger, and I've always used back tension without sort of even knowing it, I guess.
Yeah. I use
a few times people have...
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, like, the few times that people have handed me a back tension release, and they're like, "Oh, here, give this a go, like, see if you have, like, any issues with getting it to go off," kind of thing. And, I've never had an issue. Like, the shot's always gone off when I've sort of wanted it to or anticipated. So, early on I must have just learned how to follow through with that shot, sort of using that sort of back tension squeezing method.
Definitely, yeah. I practice a lot with my back tension, but then I typically hunt with my wrist release, like the index trigger. And I just find it makes me a better hunter in general. It's funny because, like, talking to Grant and Lonnie, they both are like big advocates for switching over to it. They both had big issues with target panic, and they said the back tension saved them a lot. And the one that the three of us have is the Perfects, and Yeah, they both are like, dude, you need to take that out. You need to start hunting with that. And I just haven't made the shift to it yet. But at the same time, like, it's working for me right now, so I don't know if I want to. So I'm happily practicing with that, but then jumping on to the trigger release. And it really did help. I didn't think that I had any sort of, like, real form of target panic, but it was just, it tightened my shots up so much just even transitioning to that, just because of the process, the shot process that you go through with it. So I definitely recommend, if you haven't played around with back tension, definitely grab one, I think, and just get rid of some of those bad habits that we tend to form.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. And even if like you don't have target panic or anything like that, it's always good to practice and give yourself reassurance that your form's as good as it can be in those situations. And
100%.
If you just practice with it over and over, whether you like hunt with it or not, like I've never hunted with a back tension because, I've always been like, oh, no, me, that'd be the one time I wouldn't be able to get the release to go off or something.
Exactly. That's my fear.
But,
that or like...
Yeah, definitely good to...
Sorry. I was going to say that or like the animal moves just as you're about to, like, just as you pull through your shot or something. Like that's my fears of it.
Yeah.
Which is what Lonnie and Grant always tell me. That, like, dude, don't worry. Like you'll nail it. You'll hit it. But yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe we can get over the fear together. Oh, dude. Well, it's been a good chat, and I actually think we could talk for hours on end. I'd love to actually. We'll have to do another one. We'll have to see another one maybe after the rut this year, because I think just some of the knowledge that's been passed on to you from your dad, but also the other guys, and then just the boys that you hang around with at the bow hunting the store all the time. Like I just feel like you'd just be a wealth of knowledge. You'd be able to suck it all up and and share that as well. So we'll definitely have to do a part 2 someday down the track.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yep. Always keen for a chat.
Especially when it's bow hunting.
Are you there? Oh, I think I lost you for a sec.
No, all good. I gotcha.
Always keen for a chat and stuff. And yep. And yeah, if there's anyone out there, like I'm always open and always helping people out. People message me all the time and they say I'm hanging around the store. And yeah, if you've got any questions or want some advice or even just want to chat or anything, yeah, definitely hit me up and I'll respond to you as quick as I can.
Definitely. So your socials is Liam_Bowhunter. That's on Instagram. So that's the best place to probably reach out for everyone. Yeah,
definitely. Yep.
Yeah, sweet dude. All right. Well, thanks heaps for your time, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a great little yarn. That hour and a half just like cruised by, to be honest.
Oh, is that how long it's been?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Funny, right?
Yeah, we could go for hours on end and not even know it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, dude, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Nah, no worries, man.
That wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, team. If you did have any topics, questions, or you wanted to suggest a guest for Becoming a Bowhunter, you can send me an email at matty@becomingabowhunter.com. If you are enjoying the show or you've enjoyed in particular episodes, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends. If you are not already, please hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers we get, the higher the podcast gets ranked, and that definitely helps out for showing it to other individuals. If you are not already following me on Instagram, it's at becomingabowhunter.podcast, and on YouTube, it's Becoming a Bowhunter. Get out, team, fling some arrows, get that practice in, and walk those yards in the paddocks until you find those critters. That is it for now, but not the last time that you'll hear from Becoming a Bowhunter.